Once again, Hey students, once again I welcome you all to the online English classes. I hope you're all doing fine. Now that we have completed our discussion of the chapter Sing a Song of People, it is time to move on to a new chapter. Now you must be wondering which that new chapter is. Yes? So, without wasting much time, let us see the next picture, and from there you'll get an idea about which chapter is that picture referring to. Oh, so this is something very familiar to you, right? Now this looks like a bear and there's a lot of eyes around it, but this bear is white in color. So what is it? What does it remind you of? Yes, you're absolutely right. This is a polar bear. Now, if you have gone through the contents of your book carefully, can you think of any chapter that talks about polar bears? If your answer is MALU BHALU, then you are absolutely correct. This is a poem from the very last unit of your literature book. But before we can straight away dive into the discussion of this poem, let us first have a look at some very interesting facts about this fascinating animal, that is a polar bear. We don't get to see it in our country, and in most of the countries you cannot see it. Yes, so let us first see some of its very important features and characteristics, then we will proceed towards the discussion of the poem. So, here comes the very first fact. Polar bears are found in the frozen wilds of the Arctic, in Canada, Alaska, Greenland, Russia, and Norway. Okay, so you don't get to see polar bears all around the world. No, you'll find them only in the frozen wilds of the Arctic region. So if you go to the Arctic region, you'll find there's a lot of snow. The temperature is always in minus. Yes, most part of the year you'll find the temperature below 0 degrees Celsius and much below that. Yes, and there you will not get to see the polar bears in cities. You'll find them in the wilds or in the forests. Yes, and all of these are frozen. So the Arctic region is a region in the North Pole. If you have studied about your planet, you must be knowing that it has a North Pole and a South Pole, and the Arctic region refers to the North Pole. And in this region there are some countries like Canada, Alaska, Greenland, Russia, and Norway. Yes, so these are basically the countries where you will find a polar bear. Now, beside Alaska, you can see US is written. It's because it is a part of the United States. At the back, you can also see a map. All the green portion, everything that you can see is land. Only the blue portion is water. But you will not find polar bears in the green portion. You will only find the polar bears in the orange portion. That is the North Pole or the Arctic region. Polar bears are actually black, not white. Okay, so this is quite shocking. All this time we always knew that polar bears are white in color, right? But now it says that the polar bear is black in color and not white. Therefore appears white because it reflects visible light. Okay, so this is a reason why we see the polar bear as white in color. It's because of their fur. Beneath all that thick fur, their skin is jet black. Okay, so as you already know, the polar bear lives in the Arctic region, which is beyond imagination cold, and for that it has thick fur on its body. But the body beneath the fur is black in color, and whatever we get to see on a polar bear is its white fur. That is why the polar bear looks white in color. Polar bears clean themselves by rolling in the snow. Okay, so this is quite a good technique. So there are many people who are unwilling to take a bath during winters because they find the water too cold. Yes, so you see, humans need to take a proper bath, and most animals also need to take a proper bath. But polar bears are animals which do not have to take a bath in order to clean themselves. They can just roll in the snow and they'll be perfectly clean. Polar bears are classified as marine mammals. Okay, so marine means anything that is related to water. Okay, so marine mammals are aquatic animals or water animals that rely on the ocean for their food and habitat. Yes, so as you can see, they spend most of their lives on the sea ice of the Arctic Ocean, depending on the ocean for their food and habitat. So if you leave a polar bear in a jungle, it will not be able to survive. It needs water, it needs ice. Okay, and some examples, other examples of marine mammals are seals, whales, manatees, and polar bears as well. So polar bears are the only species to be considered as marine mammals. So students, there are 8 species of bears. Okay, they're all bears, but they're different types of bears. Okay, so out of all the 8 species of bears, polar bear is the only one to be considered as a marine mammal. Polar bears are excellent swimmers too, because they can swim for long distances for many hours to get from one piece of ice to another. Their large paws are specially adapted for swimming, which they use to paddle through the water. If you have noticed a polar bear carefully, you'll see that it has very thick paws, thick padded paws, and they have been adapted in such a way that they can perfectly swim through water. They can paddle through the water. Okay, so now let's talk about the size of polar bears. Male polar bears can weigh up to 800 kg and are twice the size of females. Okay, so the female polar bears are comparatively smaller in size than the male polar bears. And what is the weight of a male polar bear? It is 800 kgs. Just imagine, just think of your own weight and compare it to the weight of the polar bear. Yes, it's so immensely heavy. They can measure up to 3 meters long, making polar bears the largest land carnivore in the world. Okay, so in the picture beside you can see there's a cutout of a polar bear. Okay, and there's this man who is somewhat around a little less than 2 meters in height, and when he's standing in front of the polar bear or the cutout of the polar bear, just see how smaller he is. Yes, so they can be as long as 3 meters, and because of this they are the largest land carnivore. And as you already know, you must have heard of words like carnivores, herbivores. Yes, so carnivores are animals that eat the flesh of other animals. Yes, so these are also carnivores, and they are the largest carnivores in the world. Polar bears have a very strong sense of smell, which they use to find seal breathing holes in the ice. So on the left hand side of your screen, you can see a polar bear sniffing in the air, just trying to smell something. And on the right hand side, there's a seal. Okay, seal are also marine animals, as we have already discussed. And since they cannot breathe through the ice, they make holes. Yes, and they come out of the hole to breathe the outer air. Once the polar bear has found the hole, the bear will wait patiently until the seal comes up for air to attack. Okay, so this is what the polar bear does for its survival. Okay, so it has to eat something, and it doesn't get any, as you already know, there is no vegetation in snowy areas. Yes, so the animals living there have to completely depend on other animals for their food. Yes, so this is what a polar bear does. It feeds upon a seal. So when they are not able to find a seal, they wait for the seal to come up through the ice hole so that the polar bear can attack. The biggest threat to polar bears is the shrinking sea ice. Okay, so students, humans are uncountable in numbers on this planet. There are lots and lots and lots of human beings. But if you talk about polar bears, they are numbered. There are a few polar bears left. And it's not just the polar bears, but there are many such animals which are on the verge of becoming extinct, all because of climate change. And what is the reason behind this climate change? It is the global warming. As you already know that with each passing year, the temperature is rising, and because of that, the ice in the Arctic and the Antarctic region is melting rapidly, because of which there is a rise in the sea levels. Yes, so climate change is causing the sea ice to melt earlier and forming later each year, which means that polar bears have less time to hunt on top of the sea ice. Yes, so they don't get much time. They don't get enough time to hunt. The bears rely on this sea ice as a platform to hunt sea prey like seals that come onto the ice and give the bear the advantage. Okay, students, so if there is no sea ice, the seals will not come up. And if the seals are not there, then what will the polar bear hunt? And if it cannot hunt, how will it survive? Because it will have nothing to eat. Yes, so you see, global warming, the climate change is a very serious issue. And you all must think about it and, try to always inculcate it in yourself that, you should make less pollution, less plastic, and everything that is friendly for the environment. We should always go for those options. Okay, so now we have learned quite a lot about the polar bear. Let us now talk about the poetess of the poem MALU BHALU. The poem MALU BHALU has been written by Kamla Bhasin. She was born on 24th April 1946. She is a very famous poet, author, and an activist. So an activist is a person who campaigns to bring about a political or social change. So students, there are many problems in our society. Yes, and the people who work towards cutting down these problems or solving these problems are called activists. In other words, you can also call them social workers. Yes, so some of her notable works are Borders and Boundaries, Women in India's Partition. So this particular book deals with a theme which you probably will not understand at your age. You're very young to understand a complicated topic like this. Yes, so I hope when you people grow up, you will read this book because it deals with the condition of women when India was undergoing partition. Okay, and the next two books that you can see are Dhamak Dham and Ulti Sulti Mito. So you should also know that she is a very famous kids author as well. Okay, she has written many things and lots of stories for little kids, and Dhamak Dham, Ulti Sulti Mito, in fact MALU BHALU as well are some of her famous works. Okay, as you already know, MALU BHALU, it is written at the end of your chapter that MALU BHALU was written originally in Hindi, but it has been translated by Sandhya Rao. Yes, now let us talk about Sandhya Rao. Sandhya Rao is one of the finest writers for children in India. Okay, so Kamla Bhasin wrote the poem MALU BHALU in Hindi, but it is Sandhya Rao who translated it for you in English. Yes, so she has written over 20 books and her books have won awards as well. So some of her famous works are My Friend the Sea, My Mother's Sari, and Sunu Sunu Snail. Yes, so the name itself is so cute, right? Sunu Sunu Snail. Okay, so if you haven't read these books, do give a read because these books have been written for young children like you. That's all for today's discussion, students. We have come to the end of our today's video. We will start our detailed discussion about this chapter from the next class. Until then, stay safe and goodbye.